Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have my book review of the book Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back, from a certain point of view. Yes, some of you might be familiar with my YouTube shorts I've been doing. I decided to review every short story from this collection individually in YouTube shorts. So, if you wanted in individual short story reviews of this, don't look at that for that here in this video. You can find those on the channel under the shorts, so just look those up. I've just had a blast reading through this. Some of the stories are great, some of the stories are not good at all, but it's been fun getting to see The Empire Strikes Back from a different perspective. I did read the 2017 from a certain point of view based off of A New Hope, and I quite enjoyed it. And I didn't do that for the channel because I actually read this before I even started this YouTube channel. But I had fun with that, and so I was like, I want to get into this one, which I bought in 2020 when this came out, and I never read it. And I also own Return of the Jedi from a certain point of view, and I do want to get to it eventually one day as well. And this one, I started reading these. It was back in like December, early December, that I started reading them to make the shorts, and I ended up reading all 40 shorts over the course of about 5 months. The first video started at the beginning of January. The last video should come out towards the end of May. So it took me 5 months to do 40 shorts. And so all of those are down there. Just look up whatever the short story you're interested in and my name, and you'll probably find it on there. This is, to talk about the series itself, this is an ambitious collection. This collection, what they did was the authors agreed not to get, royalties from the books, and instead the money that would go to royalties instead goes towards this this charity which sends books to children. What's the name of that? It's like First Book. Yeah, First Book is, so they sent all the profits from the authors to charity, which is really nice of them to do. And so the book really just is 40 individual stories about minor characters or behind the scenes things from The Empire Strikes Back. And sometimes it was a minor character that you were familiar with, but who never really got much attention. And sometimes it was a completely made-up character. And then sometimes it was actually a major character who either just wasn't present in the movie, but is from something else. Or sometimes that major character, they were just like, hey, let's find a way to get this character in. For instance, there's a thing with some characters from Ahsoka, the novel, that are in this one. And I'm like, how did you figure that in with doing A New Hope? Anyway, so there are some great short stories in here. There are some terrible ones. I'm not going to focus on the terrible ones because it's not worth it. But I'll just say this one is it's uneven. There are some great, some terrible, a bunch in the middle. So my overall rating of this book is like a 6 out of 10. Like, if you are a completionist and a short story fan, and you like just like fun little stories that you can read that are like 10 pages long, then this will absolutely be this collection for you because you'll have a ton of reading content for it. However, if you're someone that wants longer stories, if you're someone that wants things more involved with like a timeline, like in the EU timeline or the canon timeline, or if you're someone that wants things to actually be serious, then this may not be the story for you, because some of these stories are quite silly and goofy, and some of them are quite, and some of them take themselves too seriously, so it has that kind of problem with it. I think that the biggest hurdle this series has is it's just too many short stories to keep the reader's attention at once. I would not want to read 40 short stories in a row. Like, most of the time when I read a novel, I read it from beginning to end. That's just what I do. I don't read other books in the meantime. I don't pick up multiple books at once. I do one. However, I would never have, if I had tried to do that, I would have been burned out so quickly with this series. So what I did was I would read about 5 in a row, which would be about 75 pages, and then I would set it down for 2 weeks. And then I'd read 5 in a row, and then I'd set it down for 2 weeks, and that type of thing. So if you notice that I'm wearing the same clothes in some of the videos that I made for this, it's because I would record 5 in a row, because I didn't want to do all of them at once. With having 40 of them, it just got so cumbersome and tiring. I do want to mention highlight some of the best in here, because that is something I do want to do, is highlight the best. And I'll say that what I think is one of the best stories in here is a story called Tooth and Claw. This is by Michael Kogi. This is one of the stories. This one features some of the bounty hunters, and it's really focused on telling an original bounty hunter story in the Star Wars universe. And I want to make sure I have all the right information written down. It follows Bossk and his hunt for Wookiees. I really enjoyed this one because it was like after reading that short story, I said, I want a novel of this concept. I think that Michael Kogi just did a beautiful job of telling an original story that was fun. They didn't really tie into the movie much other than the fact that it was Bossk. But it was still, I think, a really enjoyable short story. One of the other ones I really liked was Faith in an Old Friend by Brittany Ann Williams. And this was the short story that really focuses on L337 from Solo. And I know that character was not well beloved in Solo. I understand that she did some things that some fans don't like. However, the way that Brittany Ann Williams wrote L3 and specifically the other elements of the computer of the Falcon, Millennium Falcon, was brilliant. I mean, it was just utterly brilliant. I was so interested in finding out what happened, and I thought it was such a clever way to connect the events of Solo with some of the lines of dialogue given in The Empire Strikes Back. And this short story takes place over the course of the movie. And there's also something with Lando, and Lando and L3 had a connection, and there's something really sweet and sad regarding Lando in here as well. So I thought that was a great story. But my favorite story in this collection has to go to Disturbance by Mike Chen. This is the story featuring Palpatine. And Palpatine is basically having some visions, and he's seeing some alternate timelines, and he's thinking about if he had other apprentices. He's thinking about what it would be like if Luke became his apprentice, if Anakin didn't become his apprentice, and he's thinking about Yoda and Mace Windu and all these things. And that story was just brilliant on every level. I just thought it added such a cool dynamic about Palpatine that I loved. I thought that it did exactly what this was supposed to do, which was to highlight something small, because you see Palpatine for like a second or like a scene in the movie, but you don't see what he's been doing this whole time, and I thought that was a lot of fun to see that. And of course, Mike Chen just understands how to write the Force and understands how to write Star Wars. He's one of those authors that, there were a few authors who are familiar authors, and I got to their story, and I was like, oh, that's not that great. And then I got to Mike Chen's story, and I was like, you were one of my favorite authors right now, and you just delivered a banger short story. Like, I'm ready for, I've been saying, I want Mike Chen to do more prequel books. I'm absolutely more for him doing any Star Wars books after he did this short story. I also want to give a brief honorable mention to another one that was just great. The Will Strike Back has to be the story that will either have people loving it or hating it. I am in the loving it category because I knew this short story is not canon. And I also knew, don't take this seriously. It is a delightfully hilarious, 3 pages of just the Wills arguing with each other about how to write the text for the crawl. And it is funny, it is goofy, it is silly. It has some Star Trek jokes in there, which I thought were perfectly placed. And I was like, that is how you write a short story that's supposed to be goofy. In 3 pages, that short story did more than some of the ones that were 10, 15, 20. I think there was even one short story that was 30 pages. Yeah, that shows that it's not about your word count. It's about beefing up the story itself. Although Tooth and Claw was a pretty long story, and it was worth that one. So some of the stories were long and worth it. Some of them were short and worth it. Some of them were both and not worth it. So I just wanted to draw attention to those particular short stories. I think that Lucasfilm should have decided that for the prequel trilogy to do 25 for the 25th anniversary, done the short stories there instead of waiting, which they'll probably do them for the 40th. The reason is because I think 40 is just too much. 25 is a good sweet spot. You can make the short stories a little longer. You can you don't feel burned out by them. Here, this is a 500 plus page book, not including the about the author pages. It's about 550 pages at the end. And that's really long. Even the last one was only about 450 pages, 460 pages maybe. And even that I thought was itself a little on the long side. But 550 pages for 40 short stories. You're getting bang for your buck. At least get that. Because I paid, the full price for this back when it came out. And I paid about you know, it's about $1 a short story, maybe a little, when you add in taxes, it's about $1 per short story. Whereas I think that if they were just fewer stories, but they were beefed up more, I think it'd been more worth it. Anyway, so that's my review of The Empire Strikes Back from a certain point of view. I do want to point out in this video what my next read is. I'm going to put down the Fakpov books. I'm going to take a break from them. And my next short story review is going to be World's Long Lost by edited by Christopher Rocchio and Sean C.W. Korsgaard. I am friends with Sean, who's the co-editor on this, and so I'm excited to read this. And Christopher is like the hottest name in science fiction right now when it comes to authors. So I'm excited to get to it. And I'm curious to see how this stacks up compared to other short stories. This one only is 400 pages, but it only has about 20 short stories in it, so these are a bit longer. My current plan is to try to read all of these like in the course of a couple days in a row and just record all of those shorts in a row. That's my current plan. I might change. I may only do like 5 or 10 at once, but this one should not take 5 months. This one should be about 2.5 months to get through this one. So that is all of my review of The Empire Strikes Back from a certain point of view. If you liked it, let me know in the comments what you thought. What were your favorite short stories and least favorites? Let me know those as well. And did you follow along with the YouTube Shorts? If you did, thank you for following along. And until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.